I think of the startup as being a tightrope walk. And what's the first thing you learn to not do when you're walking a tightrope really up high is look down. Never look down. There's nothing to be gained from looking down off the tightrope. Now, managing your balance and becoming very aware of where you are in this whole sort of dance is necessary. And there's a difference between looking down off the tightrope and adjusting your balance. You can identify the risks in a startup and work diligently to remove those risks. Identify the possible upside. Work diligently to maximize that possible upside, to make it more likely, which is really what startups are. You're deciding to do something that has a deeper, more aggressive risk profile than the alternative. That's the decision. If you find an exit off the highway in Massachusetts that doesn't have a Dunkin' Donuts, well, you can become a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee, and there's probably not a lot of risk involved. If you're trying to do some new web app or some new mobile app or some new piece of consumer hardware, whatever, it's wildly risky. And our jobs working on these things is to remove that risk. Remove the risk of the founding team breaking up. Remove the risk of running out of money before you have a product. That's totally healthy. But you can go from that very quickly into anything you see anybody doing is a proof point that you're going to be late, you're going to be behind, somebody else has it figured out, the market's against you, people want you to fail. That's looking down off the tightrope. When you see a competitor's product release, it's extremely easy to go from the risk management lens to the looking down from the tightrope lens. And it can happen without realizing that it's happened. Most of this stuff you see out there is bullshit and smoke and mirrors. It's not real. And these big companies that have been around for a long time, in our space, the biggest company, half of the stuff that they've ever announced has never come into existence. No one cares. It's bravado, it's posturing, painting a picture of the future.
Right.
Yeah, fine. Whatever, but don't take it too literally. Don't look at some screenshot and say, that's real, that works for everybody across all platforms as well as it does in the screenshot, without any setup or whatever. There are a lot of asterisks on anything anybody's showing, with very few exceptions. So it's stuff like that. It's stuff like trying to understand what's driving us crazy, what's making us look down off the tightrope, what's really scaring us. Sort of by definition, if you're doing a startup, you can't fall back on, well, everything will be fine. You can't have that reset that you can have at a 1,000-person company where you go, well, look, at the end of the day, so-and-so's pissing me off and this meeting keeps getting moved and this is really annoying and they didn't like my presentation on this or whatever. But you also reserve the right to hit the pause button and go, everything's like fucking fine. You know what I mean? Everything's fine. In a startup, everything is not fine. You may just run out of money. You may just not find product market fit. There is actual valid, rational fear. We are actually irrational when we choose not to see that and choose not to focus on that. People talk about Steve Jobs' reality distortion field. It's a requirement. Because if you just were having a rational conversation about what you're doing, you would very quickly say, well, this really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is really risky.